Hey YouTube, it's Faye, and for today's video, I'm going to be installing the Poor Man Mod's rear big brake kit on my 3rd generation Toyota Supra. Yes, this is my project Supra. I'm working on it. Congratulations me. But if you've been following this build at all, then you know that this car has been sitting for a while. So in that time, my rotors completely rusted over to the point where there was pretty much no saving them, and the calipers seized. So yeah, I've been trying to push the car around the shop, and it's just been a mess. And I do plan on driving this car soon. So if you've been following my engine build, you know that I'm gonna be making a lot more power. So with a lot more power, I'm gonna need to have a lot more stopping ability as well. And if you're a veteran of the Mk3 community, then you've probably already heard of Poor Man Mod's channel, and he did already make a video about this conversion. However, I'm not trying to rob views from him. My build's a little bit different. For example, I still have the e-brake, I still have the brake rotor backing plate, I'm using different wheels, and I'm using slightly different parts, and I'm also accommodating some parts that are out of stock currently that he recommended. So hopefully this video can just serve as an addendum to his for those who have a setup a little bit more like mine. All right. Here are all the parts that I got to do this job, and I'm gonna link all of these in the description below. I'm also gonna link Freddie's video, and on his website, he goes a little bit of a cheaper route than I do because he's Poor Man Mods, and I balled out with some power stop calipers. I also have the parking brake, he does not. So I got some shoes, although I actually don't end up using those in this video because when I pull everything off, I find that I've got tons of life left, but I just wanted to have these just because while I have everything apart, it'd be dumb of me not to replace these right now if I needed them. And then I also got the power stop pads, so that's pretty awesome. These are the 2 pieces right here that I'm getting from Freddie. So you can get these adapters. These are the hub adapters, and then these are the brackets. Now he is out of these right now, out of stock, but if there's enough interest, he'll probably do another group buy eventually. And these are the only things that you have to get directly from him. From McMaster Car, I've got these bolts that are gonna be mounting our caliper. These bolts are M14 by 1.5 thread pitch. I also made sure to get really strong bolts. So these are grade 8.8, perfect for brakes. Feel confident about those. And to accompany those bolts, I also end up purchasing some washers. These are the little banjo fittings that we need in order to attach our new brake lines to our calipers. I've also got 2 new brake lines. These are the OE front brake hoses for the Mk3 Supra, and I used these as a placeholder while I was trying to find the Stop Tech braided stainless lines that Freddie recommended for the kit. They were out of stock everywhere, and I did finally find some on eBay, but that's why you'll see these in the video later on, and then I do finally swap them out. And the calipers from Power Stop, of course, come with all the hardware, so I've got new hardware too. Also have these rotors right here, and these are Mk4 Supra Turbo rear rotors, and since I already have both of my rotors off, we're just going to do a quick little side-by-side comparison so you can see. Now normally in my brake videos I recommend comparing the 2 rotors side by side to make sure they're the same, and in this case we're going to compare them side by side and purposely hope that they are not the same. So yeah, that is a big difference. Starting with the obvious, we're gonna need to get these wheels off. Next come the calipers, so let's grab some mechanics wire to hang them from the struts. You can see how rusted my rotors are here, and sure, turning or resurfacing them could have solved the rust issue, but why would I do that when I can upgrade to solve a problem? All right, wire hung. Let's remove the calipers using a 12mm wobbly socket on my air ratchet. Before we remove the caliper, we wanna crack the brake line loose while the caliper is still securely mounted, so we're not fighting ourselves later. Then gently retighten it so we don't lose any fluid just yet. My brake lines are not stock, and they require a 14mm wrench. Now let's remove the caliper. I'm grabbing a flathead screwdriver and prying between the outer edge of the rotor and the caliper. I'm going to relieve a little fluid pressure and push the caliper piston back into the bore using my brake fluid bleeder bottle and an 8mm wrench. Without the hydraulic pressure keeping the caliper piston pressed firmly against the rotor, I'm able to remove the caliper with only a little convincing and pivoting it on that upper slider and eventually wiggling it off. Since my car has been sitting so long, I haven't performed much maintenance, so you can see that the brake grease that should have kept the slider moving freely is all dry and gunked up in there. Now I'm threading the mechanics wire through the hole in the caliper and hanging it up out of the way so as not to put any pressure on the brake line. I do want to reuse these from my 88. Now we'll remove the caliper bracket. Grab your 14mm socket, and I'm using this wobbly again from my favorite Matco set, and you can slide the bracket off complete with the brake pads and hardware. Now for my rusty rotor that probably does not want to leave its hubby home, let's coax it off with these M8 by 1.25 high strength bolts, which have a 12mm head. I'm threading these right into the holes in the rotor, then tightening them down evenly in an alternating pattern until the rotor pops off. There's our e-brake, but we'll get to that later. First, let's test fit the new rotor, because I have not seen this kit on a car with the factory e-brake retained just yet, and I'm not sure if it'll fit. You can see that it is indeed hitting the backing plate even after I bent it back a little bit, so I decided that I would have to do a little trimming to ensure that it wouldn't rub. I used my air hammer to disconnect what looked like a spot weld holding the upper section of the backing plate onto the knuckle, and then there was this little gap in how the plate attached, and I decided to trim it off at an angle and keep as much of that plate as possible. You can see the Poor Man Mod's 3D printed ring sitting there on the hub, and I'll get to that in a little bit more detail later on, but basically that's a tool for centering the rotor, sort of like a hub-centric ring for custom wheels. I used a cutoff wheel on my grinder to remove that small portion of the plate after carefully marking it out. Then I made sure to sand down any sharp edges with my mini belt sander. Of course, now we have bare metal, so I cleaned up the area with some pre-paint prep spray, got some primer down, and then sprayed on some black caliper paint. It actually doesn't look terrible. A quick spin and nothing is rubbing. Fantastic! We'll move forward. It's time to install the bracket, and Freddie mentioned that there are some casting inconsistencies that need to be ground down on the knuckle for the bracket to fit properly. So I'm once again grabbing my belt sander. Obviously I want to shave as little of the hub as possible, so I paused quite a bit to test fit the bracket before I went all crazy. Cool! Now while I have all of my tools out, let's do the other side. Lather, rinse, repeat. I'm wearing a respirator as I cut, sand, and finally as I blast off all of that metallic debris from in and around the knuckle with compressed air. And I have my Jan fan running behind me to help ventilate the shop through the open doors. While I'm in here making a mess, let's inspect and clean those e-brake shoes. If the friction material on the shoes is pretty low at this point, definitely replace them. If they aren't, check them for glazing. Mine still have plenty of life left on them, and I'm going to show you that a little bit later on in this video, but the surface was shiny, so I'm performing the clean and adjust rear brakes procedure as I learned from my Toyota dealership days. This involves a complete clean and re-grease of all of the lube points, as well as scuffing the shoe surface to remove any glazing and examine for heat cracking. I'm going diagonal with my sandpaper, then rotating the sandpaper and roughing it up again. So I make little X's on the surface of the shoe material. Then I clean everything off with brake cleaner and compressed air, and then I lube up the contact points of the brake shoes and the backing plate. The backing plate on this side was a little bit rustier than the other side, but nothing spray paint can't fix. I clean up the rust, sprayed with self-etching primer, and then I went back in with the black caliper paint. Ta-da! There we go. Beautiful rear hub is ready for its rotor. Let's go. It is a new day. My paint is dried. So now it's time to install a rotor and test fit. One thing I'm gonna do is just put the e-brake in, just adjust them all the way in. I just did a little clean and lube of the star wheel adjuster here. I did that with compressed air. Sprayed a little WD-40 in there just to sort of loosen all the debris out, put some compressed air in. Then I adjusted it all the way out, put some grease in there, and now I'm adjusting it all the way back in. And we're pushing it up to adjust it in. So that's what I want to do, is I want to adjust it, like not all the way, but enough of the way, and also make it easy by cleaning and lubing it for me to adjust it on the car so I can get a nice e-brake once I actually, you know, have the car running and driving. So you can see I've lubed all my proper lubrication points. I've scuffed up the surface of both of the e-brake shoes because they were a little dirty, a little glazed. From the looks of this hardware, and also, can you see this number here? This looks like 222, which is my lucky number, so I'm taking that as a super good omen, but it looks like these have been replaced before in the past, so there's really no need for me to replace these. And if you're looking at that and thinking, oh my gosh, that is really, really, really thin, hold on a minute, let's assess. Here is my trusty Rasta stick, aka brake pad thickness measuring tool. I'll link this in the description, and we're just gonna go ahead and put the 2mm up on it because it looks about right. Oh yeah, see how perfect that is? So from the factory, these are only 2.5mm thick. So I've got a ton of life left, and according to the manual, you should replace these when they're at 1mm, so there's no reason to replace them now. So now to adjust the e-brake, I'm gonna make sure that this largest part of the hollow here on the hub is aligned with our star wheel adjuster. All right, let's go ahead and put the rotor on. I don't really have to go over this again, but I kind of want to. Normally in like a brake video, this is what I would say. Compare your rotors and make sure they're the same in all the ways. But this time I'm gonna compare them and hope to God that they are quite different. And they are. It's a difference. That's quite a difference. These new ones are massive, these old ones are puny. All right, let's get this on. Putting it on backwards first because I'm gonna clean this part of the surface, and kind of underneath it, Just gonna put my cardboard so that whatever drips down doesn't drip onto the shop floor. Not that it would make it that much worse, because me and my shop floor is definitely by no means perfect. And of course, now that everything is lubed, I'm being careful to just get the brake cleaned. Good thing I got more where this came from. There we go. Wait, really? Oh, okay. Hopefully we have enough to make it through. It's a popular item around here. Land of pistons and pixie dust. Brake parts cleaner. Hot commodity. Jeez, come on. All right. So after dreaming up this kit with the Mark IV rear rotors, Freddie realized that there was actually a tiny, tiny little difference in the diameter of this little mounting surface. So kind of like a hub-centric ring for when your wheels aren't the perfect diameter of the hub. He 3D printed these little tools. And now this is not gonna be something that the rotor is gonna like rest on. This is basically just to get them perfectly centered. And then I put my wheel on and my lug nuts and torque everything. That's gonna hold it in place. This is just basically a tool. So I almost forgot about this. So let's get these on. Now we'll put the rotor on. Okay. Now we're able to center it. I'm putting my little impact on the lowest setting. So see how it has 1, 2, 3, and reverse and forward. So I'm just putting it on the lowest forward setting so I don't cause any damage. In a star pattern, making sure that they all seat evenly. This is just super important with anything custom because we might run into some fitment issues, and I want to make sure that everything is on perfectly the way that it should be before I make assumptions about the fitment. All right, so now our rotor's on and it's not hitting and it's happy. So let's adjust our e-brake, our parking brake. So I know you can't see, but through that little hole right now with my flashlight shining, I can see the little spikies of the star wheel. Okay, see, there it is. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna adjust it all the way tight so that the rotor cannot turn. And I'm just gonna do that with my flathead screwdriver. Now on this side, I'm going in and pushing down, and that will tighten the e-brake shoes. It's taking me a long time because I adjusted them all the way in before putting on the rotor, just so I was focusing on only the sound the backing plate was making when I was just making sure that nothing was rubbing, and I just wanted to, you know, be able to fit the new rotor pretty easily. Okay, so now, yeah, it's not going. It's not going anywhere. It is stuck. So now what we do is we back it off 8 clicks, and then our e-brake is adjusted. So I'm going back in, and to back it off, we're going up rather than down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oop, I slipped. 6, 7, 8. All right, now it's still making a little bit of rubbing sound, but that's all right. We're gonna work that all out. Once the vehicle's on the ground, you should actually hear a little bit of rubbing because you want them to be super close, right? So that when you pull the e-brake, which isn't a ton of motion, you're getting a lot of gripping power. All right, so let's find this little rubber guy. All right, so Freddie got his calipers from Rock Auto or eBay or something, and I balled out and got mine from Power Stop. I don't know, you guys, this is my project car, and like everything has to look really good. So here they are, powder coated, red, rebuilt or remanufactured, whatever they say. They're beautiful. I'm so stoked on this. What this kit does come with is the hardware packet, which apparently I have dispersed. It does come with the hardware kit and the crush washers and all that sort of thing. You also might need to get a banjo bolt. Mine came with banjo bolts. This kit did, but I also bought some separately. So I'm like rich with banjo bolts right now. So first, we're gonna install the Poor Man Mods adapter plate. And I'm gonna run the bolts down through and just make sure that I don't have to do any thread chasing or thread cleaning or anything like that. Just a quick retest it of our work now that everything has been sanded and painted, and it looks great. Okay, cool. So let's run our bolts down through. One thing that I did too that Freddie didn't have in his, and you probably don't need them, is a washer. I just want to have a washer. I don't know, people. These are, oh, look at that, that's perfect. Love it. These are actually aluminum crush washers because all that I had in my toolbox. But I did order some like hardened washers as well, which I may install. All right, so here's the crush style washer. It's a drain plug washer. It's an aluminum drain plug washer, so it's meant to crush. It was all that I had, and I just wanted to test fit it, but I ordered these, and they're just from Amazon. I'll link these in the description below. You can only buy them in like a massive pack, I guess, but these fit great. So you can see why I want this style over that style, because once and torqued down, and it's already, surprise, surprise, crushed. So, okay, so these are perfect. These are threading right in. Nice job, Freddie. And I'm gonna get my factory bolts and put some red Loctite on them and torque those down. So the factory torque spec of these bolts, 34 foot-pounds. I mean, that's not totally unreasonable, so I think we can go with that. So here I got both of my factory bolts for the original caliper holding this bracket on, and I'm starting them both by hand first, and you can see I've got red Loctite on both of them, and then got my 14mm socket on a short-handled ratchet. All right, now I'm gonna install the caliper, and there is just one thing. It's not just that they're obviously very beautiful and the fact that they can accept these larger rotors that makes them superior. They're also a dual piston style. So there's pistons on both sides, where the factory caliper is a floating style, so there's only a piston on one side. You always have like a little bit of uneven wear. The inside pad tends to wear obviously a lot faster than the outside pad. And so this will not only like ensure that the brakes will sort of apply more evenly and wear more evenly, but it's also, I don't know, double the force. I am wondering if I'm gonna have to add a proportioning valve or change my master cylinder. I'm not sure yet, but we will find out. All right, let's get some Loctite on these as well. My favorite glue stick. And we know what side we're gonna install these on because we always want our bleeder facing up. And those are just gonna sit, oh, so perfectly, just like that. Love it. Now there's no torque specification for these in the Poor Man Mod's Big Brake Kit. However, we're gonna use the factory torque specifications from Lexus. And actually in the repair instructions, it mentions that you wanna keep these holes nice and clean because we're gonna be bolting the caliper into an aluminum knuckle. And obviously my knuckle is not aluminum, but this plate is aluminum. So I figure it's the same material. We can use the same torque spec, and that torque specification is 58 foot-pounds. And I've got my 22mm socket. All right, now I'm gonna install these brake pads, and these are the Power Stop brake pads. I will link them in the description below, but they're the part number. And when you get these, you're gonna think these are kind of crazy because they've got this weird little cutout in them. But this is actually for the factory sensor on the Lexus, the low brake pad sensor. So we're not gonna use that, obviously. And if you're confused in your hardware kit, there's gonna be an extra little clip that holds that sensor into place that sits right there. So obviously, since we don't have the sensor, you're not gonna use that. So don't stress out about it, don't worry about it. I'm gonna take my brake grease and I'm gonna lube up my pads. They slide a little bit in and out. So I'm doing both of the edges right here. I'm gonna do it with my finger. So I lube one side, and I'm gonna lube the other side, like so. And then I'm also gonna lube where the pistons are gonna sit, that area. Slide those little pads in. So this hardware kit comes with the Power Stop brakes. Now, actually, I went ahead and ordered the pin directly from the Lexus dealership because when I saw these, I was like, there's no way that that's right because it doesn't go all the way through the caliper. Nope, that's just the design. It doesn't go all the way through the caliper. See what I mean though? Wouldn't you just expect it to stick all the way out or something? I did. So that's what prompted me to order these other ones, but you certainly don't have to. That's them. That's them. And also, sorry about my messy desk. This is not just a mess. I'm actually burning incense, and then I normally have my fan on, and that keeps the mosquitoes out. See the incense? It actually does work, by the way. It keeps the mosquitoes out. Anyways, back to the hardware kit. So you're gonna get this, the rear disc brake anti-rattle spring, and then of course we have the pin and the clip. Here's how this goes. The pin goes in from this direction, and yes, I did choose to use the factory Lexus one just because I'm a purist. It's from the dealership, I can't help it. I'm from the dealership. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with the Power Stop one. They're literally the same. The only difference is the color, really. Well, and a few other minor things. The factory ones are a little bit longer and have this tapered end, but the head on the Power Stop ones is a lot bigger. And I actually think that this is a little bit of a thicker width too. And then our little clip goes right in here. It's just kind of weird, right? All right, time to install these brake lines. And while this was off, I threaded in the banjo bolt and just made sure that it went in nice and smoothly, because sometimes with powder coating, you get a little extra like residual material in here. And we can see that there is a little bit there, because obviously they just plug it when they're powder coating it. No harm, no foul, but we're gonna make sure that our banjo bolt does thread in all the way and back out. Let's just do that again real quick. This is good practice for anything that's been powder coated. There we go, in and out real nice. Oh my gosh, the brake lines came with bolts too. I have 3 sets of banjo bolts. Oh my gosh. So you can see the way that I've got my banjo bolt, 1 crush washer, obviously the brake line, and then another crush washer. And if you ever pay attention to the way these are, there's actually sides to crush washers. You can see this one has a rounded edge and that one has a flat edge. And true diehards will tell you there is a right and a wrong way to install these. I'm putting the flattened edge there on the side with the line, like facing the line, and then the rounded edge is going to be pointing towards the caliper. So now to attach the other side, you can see my painting skills are, I got paint everywhere. Normally, I would just be using a regular line wrench. However, thanks to Freddie, I'm gonna be using this ratcheting line wrench. That's right, check this out. Excessive paint job there. Amazing. Now you might start losing a little fluid from here at this point. So one thing that I have going on is I actually have my bleeder bottle hooked up and I have the line cracked, so you can see I'm actually currently draining the fluid out right now. So it just doesn't get over anything else, because brake fluid is extremely corrosive and it will destroy any of your paint. And I think that's it. Yep. So we've got this little C-clip that sits up top, and then that's just gonna come with it. And I have new ones of these that came in my hardware kit, but this looks fine to reuse. We're gonna gently thread this in by hand first and just make sure that it's moving really, really, really nicely long before we put a tool on there. Why am I still holding this? There it is. Got my 12mm ratcheting wrench. Yes, of course these banjo bolts have a torque specification that we're going to observe, and it's 29 foot-pounds. And I'm using the pry bar to hold the brake line in place because from the factory, the actual Lexus line has a little tab bent into it that will go into the caliper and that will prevent that line from turning when you're tightening. And the factory line on the Supra is like that as well. We can see that on the other side. But this rubber brake line that's for the front of the Supra is just a little bit too long for my taste, so I am going to replace this one as well. You can see there's the hole that it should go into, but it doesn't. And we're definitely going to want to wipe down any brake fluid that leaks at all. While I was editing some of the earlier clips of this video, I realized I was actually missing this retaining nut and the cotter pin. So that has now just magically appeared. Now all we have left to do is install the wheel and see how these look. All right, look at the end result here. It actually looks like it's supposed to. The rotor is taking up almost all the space that you can see in the wheel. And check this out. I love how that caliper looks just hiding right there. That looks amazing. And it's like almost the shape of the space in the wheel too. Oh my God, it looks so good. I'm so stoked on this. Next, we should bleed the brakes. However, you don't need to see that in this video because I have a whole video just dedicated to different ways to bleed the brakes. And I still have my front brakes to do, and I'm actually not just there yet. But when I do, I actually just got this new style of brake bleeder, so I'm maybe gonna make a whole video just on this once I figure out how to use it, and then I can do a review. I don't know if this is gonna be good or if it's gonna suck. We shall see. I will also be excluding the brake pad bedding procedure. As much as I would absolutely love to do that right now, we're missing a vital component with which to make this happen. which is of course the engine. Let me know in the comments below if you did this modification or if you're thinking about doing this modification. Maybe if there is enough people that are interested in this, then Freddie will do another group buy on these brackets, but pretty stoked that I got in on the first one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Hopefully you'll see more on the Supra, but I have a feeling it's gonna be a Tacoma video. All right, see you guys in my next video. Bye.
Hi, sweetheart. Ooh. Hi, darling. Bless you. Bless you. Hello. Hi, sweetheart.